So with Manchester City now possessing Erling Haaland alongside their already world-class fleet, including other Ballon d'Or contenders like Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne, it is now becoming more evident than ever the value of having one of the truly elite players in your side. And by elite, I mean top 6 or 7 in the world. Right now, I would say that there are 8 Ballon d'Or contenders. Haaland and Mbappe are the 2 obvious options, with Lionel Messi and Neymar also being included, alongside Benzema, Lewandowski, De Bruyne and Modric. Towards the end of the video, I'll put those in order, but the point is, City have 2 players who are not just world class, but competing with the best in the game, and quality certainly makes a difference as we saw in the Manchester derby. But before I go any further, would you be interested in watching one live Italian Serie A game each weekend? Well, if you are in the UK or Ireland, you can do exactly this by downloading the OneFootball app. This weekend it's Inter Milan versus Sampdoria at 7:45 on the OneFootball app, and if you're like me, you'll probably be interested in other leagues as well, so you can use the OneFootball app to look at stats, transfers, results and highlights from other leagues as well. So the OneFootball app has everything you need as a football fan. So if you do want to download the app and get all of that, a link will be left in the description below, and by downloading the app you will be helping to support the channel. So if United are looking to compete with Pep City in the coming seasons, Ten Hag and the board need to be adding this calibre of player to the squad, as currently City have that game changing quality at the highest level consistently throughout the season, and I think consistency is what distinguishes the very good from the world class players. World class players produce regularly on the big stage against the best opponents. But if you look at that list of Ballon d'Or contenders, other than maybe Neymar and maybe Mbappe in 2025 at the end of his PSG contract, I can't see United being able to bring any of them in, and even then Mbappe is unlikely and Neymar probably isn't the type of player that United need right now. But not to worry, as Ballon d'Or contenders aren't always at this level, they develop into these players, and so that means that when this current crop of players slip out of that prestigious category, they will be replaced by the next generation. And so if United aspire to have this standard of player, which they should, then they should be looking to sign the Ballon d'Or contenders before they get to that level. Think Sir Alex Ferguson signing an 18-year-old Ronaldo in 2003 and patiently developing him until 2007 when Ronaldo really cemented himself as a world-class player. The same can be said for Arsene Wenger and Thierry Henry, Ronaldinho and Barcelona, and Kaká and AC Milan. So who are the players who will be competing for the Ballon d'Or over the next decade? Well, Haaland and Mbappe will be the pace setters, and I would predict from now till 2030 both players pick up at least 2 Ballon d'Ors each. However, even though Mbappe and Haaland are theirs, think back to Xavi and Iniesta keeping Ronaldo off the podium in 2010, and Wesley Sneijder's name also being in the mix that year as well, or in 2013 when Frank Ribery was a strong favourite but ended up finishing 3rd. 2018 was a year Luka Modric won it, with Griezmann and Mbappe also having solid claims, and as of recent we've seen Lewandowski, Van Dijk and Benzema all arise in the conversation, with Lewandowski probably deserving at least 2 Ballon d'Ors to his name. So an Mbappe-Haaland duopoly can be surpassed, and the first player who I think we could see pushing into this level is AC Milan's 23-year-old Portuguese sensation Rafael Leão. Leão signed for Milan for around 35 million euros in 2019 after previously being at Lille and Sporting before them, and in this and last season he's begun to show his elite level potential. Leão's aesthetic profile is everything you would want in a modern attacker, being 6'2" in height, muscular build, rapid off the mark, as well as being an elite dribbler and being ice cold in front of goal. He's very Thierry Henry-like in his ability to float past players on the left flank in congested areas and use the Henry inside of the boot technique with composure and phenomenal placement. Leão had 7 and then 12 goal contributions in his first 2 seasons at Milan. Before last season he scored 11 and assisted 8, taking him to 19 goal contributions, and this season I think he's on course to beat the 20 goal contributions mark, as he's already got 4 goals and 4 assists in his first 7 Serie A games of the season so far at the time of writing. Playing from the left flank he can pretty much do it all, being one of the best dribblers in world football, having the perfect combination of intricate ball control and athletic speed, enabling him to be a key ball progressing weapon, and this can be seen from his FB Ref report, as he ranks in the low to mid 90th percentiles for dribbles, progressive carries, carries into the final third and carries into the penalty area, showing that Leão is truly elite in this department. He also provides the end product when he gets into the final third, sitting in the mid 80th percentiles for XG assisted and around the low 80s for his non-penalty goals and his non-penalty XG, whilst also overperforming his XG by 0.07 per 90, which sees him ranking around the mid 70s. So Leão is a player who's already producing elite level ball progression, while just being below the cusp of that level for his output in the final third, but with the attributes he's already showcased and the fact that year on year he's improving dramatically, I think by this time next year Leao would have cemented his name on the European scene, and as early as 2024 I think he could be a serious competitor to Haaland and Mbappe for the Ballon d'Or. If United did want to sign him, he'd be expensive but not as costly as he might have been, as despite having a £128 million release clause in his contract, his current deal at Milan only runs until 2024, meaning that come next summer in 2023, the Portuguese starlet will be 24 with just 1 year left on his current contract, and so I reckon a fee in the region of £70 million would be enough to land him. Of course, you'd have to factor in agent fees and player fees along with the massive wage package, but I do think given Leao's current ability and potential, it's a deal that I think would be very much worth it. Keita Kvaratskhelia is the next name on my list, and would have been a pretty unheard of name before a ball was kicked this season. However, he started the season at Napoli spectacularly after his £10 million move from Dynamo Batumi in the summer. At the time of writing, the 21-year-old left winger has scored 5 goals and assisted 1 in his first 8 Serie A games, and like Rafael Leao, he is a player who can progress the ball, create chances and score himself as well, which I think are the 3 ingredients that are essential for players to even get on that Ballon d'Or list. Kvaratskhelia reminds me of Ronaldinho or David Ginola, being a right-footed left winger who is deceptively fast and powerful, which combined with his agility and mesmeric close ball control makes him a fantastic carrier of the ball when the attack is transitioning quickly in the middle third, as well as having the intricacy to break through a defence in congested areas around the box. He plays as a left winger in a 4-2-3-1 for Napoli, but I think he could also be used as a mezzala on the left of a midfield 3, if Ten Hag transitioned to a 4-3-3. Though I do think for United, Kvaratskhelia would be best used as a left winger, being able to stay wide as an outlet in the final third, where he can be a creative threat down the left. And what I like so much about Kvaratskhelia in advanced wide positions that both Sancho and Antony can learn from is his willingness to go both ways, either cutting inside onto his right looking to release a curling shot or an in-swinging cross, or going down the outside where he can then look to get to the byline and find a lofted cross or a cutback. I think Antony and Sancho can be rather one-dimensional when they are in one-on-one situations, with both always looking to cut in on their stronger foot and being reliant on runners around them to drag their fullback away in order to create that space for them to cut into, whereas Kvaratskhelia is a multifaceted dribbler, and I think this is what distinguishes high-level wide attackers to the elite ones competing for the Ballon d'Or. Elite-level wide attackers over the past decade or so, like Robben, Gareth Bale, Neymar and Ribery, all have elevated their game by adding the ability to create and score goals, rather than just being great ball progressors. And I think Kvaratskhelia is already beginning to show his ability, making me incredibly excited to see how he develops at Napoli, as I think come 2024-2025, Kvaratskhelia, like Rafael Leao, could be a player doing 40 goal contributions in a single season. In the summer, Kvaratskheilia's price is going to dramatically increase, and so I think if United want him, they're going to have to stump up between 70 and 80 million pounds next summer. Now in the potential Ballon d'Or contenders category, Leao and Kvaratskhelia both fall into the subcategory of players who have or are proving their ability at a top 3 European league with a top domestic side. The reason I think this is important is because it's one thing to do it in Liga NOS and Ligue 1, but I think you can never truly judge a player's long-term ability at the highest level until they've shown their ability either in the Premier League, La Liga or Serie A. We've seen quite a few players look elite in the Eredivisie, Liga NOS and Ligue 1, and even in the Bundesliga to an extent, but fail to translate that to England, Spain or Italy, and so I think when a player does produce the performances that we are seeing from Leao and Kvaratskhelia in one of these leagues, that only adds to their value because it makes the perceived probability of failure a lot less lower. But there are players who come from outside one of the top leagues that almost immediately move into that world-class bracket. An example of this would be Ronaldo Nazario in 1996, when after scoring 42 goals in 48 games at PSV in 95-96, he moved to the Camp Nou at 19, and in his debut season he would score 34 goals in 37 games, before his world record transfer worth £24 million to Inter Milan in the summer of 97, and he would also pick up the Ballon d'Or that year as well. This was a similar pattern to Andrei Shevchenko, who like Ronaldo Nazario broke through and established his name on the European football scene by the age of 21, scoring 94 goals in 164 games for Dynamo Kiev, including 33 goals in both of his last 2 seasons, prior to his record transfer move to AC Milan in 1999 for a fee around the £25 million mark. Shevchenko would carry on this goal scoring output in Italy, scoring 29 and then 34 goals in his first 2 seasons at Milan, and in 2003 he would win the Ballon d'Or after guiding AC Milan to a Champions League victory that year. So it can be done, and if you think those 2 examples are from too long ago, then you can even use Neymar, Vinicius Jr., Alphonso Davies and Erling Haaland as examples of players who've been able to move into that world-class bracket just shortly after entering a top league from one of the outsiders in Europe, North America or Brazil. But before I go on, I do now have a clips channel where I will be uploading shorter content from my previous videos, and I'll even release some clips of some future videos that should be coming out soon, so subscribe to the channel, it will be linked in the description, and follow my Instagram and Twitter for more content as well, those will all be linked in the description below. And a player who I think would fall into this category would be Shakhtar Donetsk's 21-year-old Ukrainian left winger Mikhailo Mudryk, who has impressed immensely for Shakhtar over the past season, and not just domestically but also in Europe, scoring 2 goals and getting 2 assists in his first 3 Champions League games this season. When I watch him play, stylistically he reminds me of a young Cristiano Ronaldo. Think Ronaldo from 2004 to 2006, that's the type of aesthetic Mudryk has, being lean and athletic, and despite being slightly smaller at 5'9" than a young Cristiano Ronaldo, he is a direct dribbler like the Portuguese, using his right foot to race at defenders and being able to either go down the outside on his weaker left foot, where he has the ability to drive a cross or a shot across goal to the back post or into the far corner as he did against RB Leipzig in the Champions League, or he can cut inside onto his stronger right foot, where he can either look to create a chance or look to release a curling place shot into the far corner, or drive a knuckleball like shot with more power. As with wingers like Ronaldo, Bale, Neymar, Robben and really any wide attacker who progresses into that Ballon d'Or level category, Mudryk has a ball progressing, goal creating and goal scoring ability that I would say in my own opinion are all essential in order for a wide player to truly move into that elite category, and in general I think it's the goal scoring that needs to be added to most wingers' game. Mudryk already has all the attributes needed to become one of these elite wingers, being able to dribble, having pace, being composed and clinical in front of goal, and being able to score from a variety of different finishes, which I always think is an overlooked player trait. Mudryk's best role would be as an inside forward in a front 3, though he could also be used in a wide position in a 4-2-3-1 as well. He could be used as a natural winger who holds his width in the middle and final thirds, looking to isolate his fullback in a 1v1, which is how Pep has used players like Mahrez and Sterling over the years, as well as how Ten Hag seems to want to deploy both Sancho and Antony. However, despite being able to play in this natural winger role, I think Mudryk as an inside forward allows him to get into more central shooting positions and therefore maximises his goal scoring output, and we have seen Ten Hag utilise Rashford in this role in the second half against Liverpool and Arsenal and in the victory against Everton, and I think this role at United could allow Mudryk to develop into a Ballon d'Or level talent over the next few seasons. Ten Hag already has Sancho, Rashford and Antony as options on the wing, but maybe if he felt like he needed an Anthony Elanga upgrade, then I think for around £40 to £50 million Mudryk would be a fantastic signing. As whilst I do think Sancho and Antony can go on to be top level wide players, I think Mudryk has the potential to go a level above and be a name among the Ballon d'Or contenders if, and it is a very big if, he develops as I anticipate he could over the next few seasons. However, despite me wanting him at Manchester United, I think from his point of view, I think he needs to go somewhere where he's not only going to be a main starter week in week out, but also a key player in the side, which probably won't be the case at any of the top 6 Premier League sides just yet. I think the perfect club for him to develop at would be Borussia Dortmund, as not only would he suit the fast-paced Bundesliga, where the attacks transition a lot quicker, which tends to allow attacking players to stand out more in my opinion, but at Borussia Dortmund he would also be at a top side, get to play in a team built around giving young players opportunities, and he'd also get to continue playing in the Champions League as well. For Dortmund, they would have to shell out north of £30 million at least, but I do think it would be a transfer worthy of that investment. Another player who I think could potentially be a Ballon d'Or contender that United could sign is a player who is older than the previous 3 I have mentioned and is approaching his peak. That player is Bayern Munich's Serge Gnabry, who is now 27 and hasn't really pushed on from his breakout season back in 2019-2020, when he showed his elite level abilities, scoring 9 goals and assisting 2 in 10 Champions League games that season, helping Bayern to go on and win the trophy. He was unplayable in games against Tottenham and Chelsea and was only around 24 at that time, but he hasn't maintained that level over the past few seasons, not reaching those same goal scoring levels, although this may be because he's being used as more of a conventional wide player under Nagelsmann and even as a wing-back for periods, so it is understandable that his numbers have decreased from when he was playing as an inside forward from the left of Hansi Flick's 4-2-3-1. He's hit 4 goals and got 4 assists in 14 games this season, pulling 17 goals and 9 assists in 45 games last season, and 11 goals and 7 assists in 38 games the season before. Whilst in his best season to date, which was 1920 when Bayern won the Champions League and Gnabry was a key player, he scored 23 goals and assisted 14 in 46 games in all competitions that year. So Gnabry is still a top level player, but he has slightly declined in terms of his pure numerical output from his 2020 best. However, I do think that now he's approaching his late 20s, if he does get a big move away from Bayern and is operating from the left as an inside forward, he has a potential to return to his goal scoring form of 2020 and combine this with his already elite ball progression and chance creating output, and you have a player who can compete with the best in the world. Gnabry has to be one of the most underrated players in Europe in my opinion, and we can see this by looking at Gnabry's underlying numbers from his FBref report. So over the last 365 days, when compared against every other winger and attacking midfielder in Europe's top 5 leagues, we see that Gnabry ranks in the low to mid 80th percentiles for carries into the penalty area and for dribbles completed, whilst also ranking in the early 90s for carries into the final third, showing just how much of a ball progression weapon Gnabry can be with the ball at his feet in the opposition half, having phenomenal acceleration and intricate ball control which allows him to float past players in congested areas. He also ranks in the mid 90s for XG assisted and for passes into the penalty area, which tells us that Gnabry isn't just a wide player with excellent dribbling, he can also progress the ball via his passing and be a key chance creator as well. Even though he isn't producing the goal scoring numbers that you would expect from a Ballon d'Or contender, when we do look at his XG, we can see that in the right system, Gnabry could potentially morph into a top level goal scoring forward. He ranks in the 90th percentile for his non-penalty XG, in the high 90s for his non-penalty goals, and he does overperform his non-penalty XG by a massive 0.20 per 90, sitting in the 97th percentile, which tells us that when he plays, not only is Gnabry one of the best in the world at getting into goal scoring positions, which may obviously be aided by the fact he does play at Bayern, but also that he has the finishing ability to take those chances, being a fantastically accurate shooter, able to race through on goal and drive the ball hard and low past the keeper into the far corner from either side with either foot. I think if he was deployed as United's left or even right-sided attacker, playing that inside forward role that we do see Rashford play in, then Gnabry would thrive, making runs ahead of play into goal scoring positions and being able to take advantage of the through ball playing ability of Eriksen and Fernandes behind him. I could see Gnabry coming into this Manchester United side and transforming into a goal scoring wide player in the mould of a Salah or a Mane, and I think over the next few seasons as he comes into his peak, he can recover that 2020 form, and if he can sustain that, which I would back him to do, I think he can be in that Ballon d'Or conversation over this next decade. He would have been available on a free next summer had he not signed a new deal at Bayern until 2026 in the summer. However, with the options that Bayern have in those wide attacking positions like Sane and Coman, I think if the right offer came in and Gnabry wanted to depart, I think this deal would be possible, and I don't think he'd be as expensive as someone like Rafael Leao. I'd say he'd probably cost United around £70 million, which I think is a good deal given the quality that Gnabry has. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering why I've only chosen wide attackers, and the reason for this is that I just feel that at the moment in world football, it's the wide attackers, or should I say the inside or wide forwards, who seem to be best positioned to hit the high goal contribution numbers via goals and assists, as well as having a greater overall impact on the game than centre forwards. As I think in the modern game, you can't just rely on goals to get to that Ballon d'Or level, you also need to be providing that creative output as well. Now obviously the rate at which Haaland is scoring is just insane, so he catapults himself ahead of everyone, but if you look at the other players who have been able to get their name into the mix for the Ballon d'Or over the past 5 to 7 years or so, most of them are wide forwards. Think Mbappe, Salah, Neymar when he used to be more of a wide player, rather than a central creator, Ribéry, Robben, etc, etc, you get the point. In order for centre forwards to really elevate themselves into this level, they either need to score at an insane rate like Haaland or Lewandowski, or add more creative aspects to their game like Harry Kane or Karim Benzema. I do think players like Lautaro Martinez and João Felix could be the Harry Kane type of forward, combining goals and creativity, whilst Dusan Vlahovic and Hugo Ekitike are young strikers who I think could be hitting 40 plus goals a season when they reach their mid-20s, with the emphasis being on the word could. However, I just think because Gnabry, Leao, Kvaratskhelia and Mudryk are more midfielders who can also add goal scoring to their game rather than centre forwards who need to add creativity, they just seem to naturally be in a better position to reach the level of being a Ballon d'Or contender. I think this change really came with Messi and Ronaldo, who raised the level so high from what it had previously been. One of my favourite Ballon d'Or winners of all time was Kaká, who won it in 2007, scoring 8 goals and picking up 7 assists in 31 Serie A games during the 06-07 season, and also scoring 10 goals and getting 3 assists in 13 Champions League games, as Milan went on to win the Champions League that year. So you can see that before Messi and Ronaldo, the idea of having to pick up 40 plus goal contributions over the whole season in order to win the Ballon d'Or wasn't the baseline. However, since Messi and Ronaldo and Haaland and Mbappe, that has definitely changed. So I did say at the start of the video that I would rank the best players in the world in order, so here it is. So in 10th place, I'll probably go with my most controversial option, which is Christopher Nkunku, who's a player who I don't think gets the credit he deserves. Just go look at his metrics over the past year or so. He's a goal scorer as well as a goal creator, and now it does look like he will get that big move to Chelsea most likely, and so I do expect him to really cement himself in that bracket over the next few seasons. In 9th, I've gone with Harry Kane. In 8th, I've gone with Neymar. In 7th, I've gone with Lionel Messi, as whilst I do think he has dropped off from where he was at Barcelona, that's only natural. To me, he's still at least in the top 10. In 6th, I've gone with Luka Modric, as I think his performances in the Champions League and just his performances in big games in general puts him into that bracket. I actually think he's probably close to his peak right now, despite being 37, which is absolutely insane. But I've put him in 6th, just behind Kevin De Bruyne in 5th, Lewandowski in 4th, Benzema in 3rd, and of course I've gone with Mbappe and Haaland as 1 and 2. But who have I gone for as the best player in the world? I've gone with Mbappe just at the minute. By the end of the season, that could change depending on who performs in the big games in the Champions League, as I do think that is the key battleground for Haaland against Mbappe. As both players are just scoring so many goals, it's almost become redundant to compare them from a goal scoring point of view. And I think you've got to start comparing what they do at the top level in the big games, and right now I do think Mbappe just edges Haaland. So let me know your top 10 in the world, let me know who you think Manchester United should sign if they had to sign a player who was going to potentially win the Ballon d'Or. And as always, if you like the video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel and click the bell, and check the description for more videos as well.